this particular workshop to give you some sort of a rundown of how you can build kind of like a prototype AI agent to create social media posts using some Python libraries and a powerful AI agent tool called Replit. So let's get started. So before I dive into the coding part, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of rundown of what's the technical walkthrough look like of an agent. As this social media agent is kind of like a multi-agent system. It does a lot of, it performs a lot of different aspects of responsibilities that it carries out. It has a lot of AI agents that work together to meet the final outcome. So let's think about that. You have an AI agent app, like every morning you wake up and you just open the app and you put some sort of a input there, some sort of a prompt, and the prompt is kind of like giving you like an idea of, okay, so I want to create a post, social media post, based on what is the life of an AI engineer, or I want to create a social media post based on what it looks like for AI governance and ethical AI. So what you do is that, I think this is not the correct one. Apologies. Yeah. So you go to that app and you kind of type your idea there. And once you type your idea, then app will try to get that idea from a prompt, and it pass it onto an agent called content strategist that builds the brief. That app also kind of collects some of the news links or article lists from internet and also pass it to the content strategist. And the content strategist is the main nucleus of that agent, the multi-agent system. The content strategist capture each and every word of the prompts. It collects the brief from there, and then it passes it on to other agent system that create the tailored post for different platforms. Like, for example, this content strategist building something and it's passing on to a platform writer's craft post. Like for example, like if you want to create a post for LinkedIn, then content strategist will pass it on to the LinkedIn agent, and LinkedIn agent then craft it based on the LinkedIn standard, and then it will display it on the app. So this is kind of like a building block of that agent, where you starting from that app level, then you're going to the strategy and writing space, and then display and save. And in the display and save, it's nothing but it's showing that content on a user app, and also it allows you to download that app, the content of the app, in a different Airtable. Once you're done with that display and save, there are so many things going on behind the scenes, that Airtable, OpenAI API, that I'm going to come to that section when I'll give you a code walkthrough. But this is the overall kind of like architecture from a non-technical perspective. The agent starts with an app level, then it goes to strategy and writing, and then it goes to display and save. And once you are done with the display and save, you can use that content for your social media post. Now, before I go into the code walkthrough, I want to give you some sort of an idea of how the non-technical walkthrough of the app, the agent, looks like. So it has like a few building blocks. It starts with at the app layer. Some of you who actually have worked on Streamlit probably familiar with the app.py Python script. So that's the main kind of component of an app, and that app.py connects with different components. Like, for example, like if app.py wants to get all the libraries to be installed, then it goes to the requirements text and it gets all the details from there. So this is a very technical walkthrough, and this is mainly for some of you who already worked on Streamlit version of app, so they can get some sort of details from here. And when I'm going to do the code walkthrough later in the workshop session, then you will be basically able to match it with how the code workspace was set up. So just to give you a background is that there is a social agents block that captures all the agentic scripts for different platforms. We have a Python script for LinkedIn agent, Python script for Twitter agent, one for Instagram, another for Facebook. We have, and all these Python scripts are connected with the content strategist. As think about that, the content strategist is the main, like a manager, social media manager, who kind of like delegating all the briefs to different platform agents. And once the content strategist gets done with that, then this LinkedIn agent will post something based in the LinkedIn format on the app. There are a couple of other components there with this app, like for example, Airtable Logger. So Airtable is the internal database of this particular app. Like for example, if a social media manager who is using the agent wants to keep a log of all the posts generated by the agent, then they can use an internal database, Airtable. There's another important component called link discovery. So this particular Python script connected to a different API that helps the agent to capture some relevant newspaper article or any online article links and pass those links to that social media post. And we'll take a look at it when we get to that particular workshop demo. So that's kind of like an overall technical walkthrough of this agent. And I'll definitely share all these diagrams after this session in a Google slide or any other format. So you'll definitely get a copy of this one. So now let's get to the main component, that how we can do code walkthrough and how we can build this agent on Replit platform. So this is actually a Replit website, and this is basically the landing page of that AI agent, or you can call it as like more of like a code developer platform, or building agent platform, whichever you can frame it. So this Replit is very useful for folks who wants to build something either from the scratch, or they just want to write some sort of a prompt and it will build that app for themselves. But for this workshop, I'll show you that how the Replit will help you to build an agent based on some predefined Python scripts. So in order to do that, we first have to load some of the Python script from the GitHub repository that I shared with the attendees yesterday. I believe most of you have access to the GitHub repository. If you don't, I'm going to just paste it one more time in the chat, so that way you can have access to that. So let me... So this is the GitHub repository for all the source code. So now let me switch back to the Replit agent and let's see how we can incorporate that GitHub repository to the agentic platform. In order to do that, first you have to click on the Create App button. And this Create App button is going to give you three options. So there are three ways you can actually build, agentic solution using Replit. One is you can just use like a basic prompts and the Replit will build it for you. The second is that choose a template, where you can choose a particular like application template, and then you can just develop that agent on the fly on the Replit platform. Another one is you already developed the code somewhere else and you want Replit to kind of just build it like an application, or you can just deploy it using Replit. So we're going to use the third option here. But if you have the code already in your local laptop and computer, you can also build, start the app from there. And there's a specific instruction in the README document of that repository that you can follow to know how we can actually just run the app from your local laptop instead of just going through Replit. But for this exercise, I'm just going to show you how we can just, incorporate the code on the Replit platform and just build it from there. So for this example, my repository is already connected. So that's why, as you can see, that all the GitHub repositories are showing up on Replit. So you can pick any of them. So for this purpose, I'm picking the AI Social Agent _workshop that I created yesterday and shared with you all. So now what Replit is doing right now, it's taking all the code directly from the GitHub and it's kind of processing it internally. Now, as you can see that the README file that you can, that you see on the GitHub, it's kind of like properly being rendered on the Replit platform as well. So if you want to like go over the README before you start, building your agentic app, so we are happy to do so. You can go over that instruction one by one. But this is basically the first step where you're just importing everything from your GitHub, and then the next step is to kind of like start building all the packages and stuff. Now, before I do that, there's one thing Replit always asks you to do is that if you're building an app, they'll ask you that what will be your run command. And run command means, like, let's say you're building that Streamlit app from your local laptop. So once you have the app set up, then you have to go to the console or the command prompt and run this command to spin up that app. So Replit is also asking for the similar kind of command, that this will be your run command for the app or not. So they always ask that it's a kind of like a default setup. So you just go ahead and confirm and close it for now. And now the next step, what you need to do is that once you have that apps, imported on the Replit platform, then you have to you just have to run this particular command to install all the Python libraries and packages required for this app development. So let's just go ahead and run it. And in order to run it, you need to get the Replit shell platform. So now there is multiple ways to get the shell on Replit user interface, but I'm going to show you the simplest approach here is to just click on the new tab, open a new tab, and it'll open up the shell command prompt on the Replit environment, and you just paste it over here and run it. So now what it's doing right now is that we do have a requirement.txt files. Over here, we're asking Replit to, just go ahead and install all these libraries that would be required to build that AI agent. I want to, while this thing is running, I want to see if there is any question on the chat. Yes, Replit is open source tool. However, it has a free subscription and paid subscription. I think the free subscription will allow you to build only 3 apps. There's a limitation there. And so that's probably answering your question. And then what's the benefit of using a coded agent versus something like Init or Zapier? Good question. I wanted to answer that question later in the session, so I'll get to that what is the relation between a coded agent and something like Init and Zapier. Okay, so now we're back to the Replit agent, and we can see that the installation has been done. Everything has been packaged, and it's installed on the Replit platform. So now we are good to go. But before we get to before we start running that the app, I want to give you a little bit of walkthrough of the code. How the codes, like the different Python scripts, are kind of connected with each other. So if you remember that architecture walkthrough, there are a few components there. The first component was app.py, which is the main application script for the agent. This app.py connected with different components. And the main component here is the social agents. So in the social agent directory, you will see a Python script called content strategist. So if you go to open the content strategist Python script, here you will see, I'm not going, and obviously we are not writing any code here, and I'm going to try to give you a very basic overview of the code, what it's doing here. So here the content strategists are calling the GPT-4o model through OpenAI API key, and it's capturing some prompts. Like, for example, I'm telling the content strategist is that what's this role? So the content strategist role is that it's a system processor, and the content is doing that content strategy. It's a helpful content strategist. It will generate a brief for social media post based on the user's input that includes links to YouTube videos, article, or tutorials. It will also use the provided resources to create a compelling brief. So that's the prompt we are passing to the content strategist, letting that agent know that its job is to get the prompt, making sure it creates a brief of that prompt, and also goes out on the internet and website, try to get some relevant articles and links. And once it captures all the brief and stuff, then it will pass it on to the next agent. So that's the main thing this content strategist PI is doing. There are a couple of sections over here where you can see that it's trying to discover links, means it's also connected to another agent that helps this content strategist to capture some links from different websites relevant to the post. Now, once we are done with the content strategies, the next thing is Facebook. So for different platform, we have different agent. Like for Facebook, we have one agent, and the content of that particular agent is that it writes Facebook post, it uses emojis and hashtags, and it also try to keep things concise and engaging. Same for Instagram post. It's also kind of have a different kind of, it uses Instagram captions, concise and engaging. The main reason I'm actually showing you this one is that this is where actually the main things happens. This is where you have to tweak the verbiage of your prompts to make that agent more relevant to. Like if you want to build a more robust Instagram, like a post, so maybe you have to add more prompts to this one. So that way it will be easier for the Instagram agent to understand, okay, this is what I need to do. Because at the end, if everything goes down to prompt engineering, and I believe some of you already taken some of the prompt engineering class workshops as a part of this main build series, so you know how to kind of write a prompt and adding more context to it. So it's more about like how you can build an agent and trying to give that agent more purpose by adding more relevant context. So the purpose of showing you is that this is where actually you need to make more changes or enhancement to make that agent better and robust. Same for LinkedIn agents. You can see the same ideas over here. I wanted to use the word professional because it's LinkedIn, so you're probably going to spit out some post that's more professional and according to the LinkedIn standard. Next, Twitter agents. For Twitter agents, there's a certain tweak I made, is that the word limit has to be concise, because Twitter, for free version, we do have a words limit for Twitter. So, and you can always change that, based on, what you use and how you can, use that Twitter post. Like if you have a pro version on X, and I should use the word X instead of Twitter. So, but if you have a pro version on X platform, I think you're allowed to create a post, for 10,000 words limit. But if you have like a free version, then I think you are not allowed to create a post for more than 200 words or something. So you can always adjust that prompt to, tell the agent to create more precise and engaging, X post. Now, so this is kind of like the main components of like the agentic architecture of this multi-agent system. Now, the next thing what I wanted to show you is that this is more of like something that we need to see in a social media post. Like every time when I post something on social media, I always try to share some sort of relevant articles and links. Now, I'm using an API called News API. I'm not a super fan of this particular API because sometimes it captures links and articles that's totally irrelevant to the post. And I've seen that sometimes it creates some hallucination. But that's the free version I have right now, so I'm using it just as a demo. But you can definitely check some other news feature APIs out there that will be a better fit for them. But the main reason, but the one thing for sure that most of the cases news APIs provide free version, but the free versions are not pretty good. It's like sometimes they don't provide relevant articles, links, through the agent. But this is what I'm just using just to give you all a demo, but you can definitely use different news APIs to, collect free articles and links from website. Now, so we are done with the social agents part. We're done with the link discovery. So now, the agent knows that, okay, I built all the multi-agent layers that's going to help me write the content, that's going to help me tailor the content to different platforms. It will also help me to capture some links and articles, material, stuff from website and pass it on to the post. Now, what's the final thing that we should do? in terms of making this agentic system more robust and kind of like more usable. So what I did is that if I'm a social media manager, I would like to keep a track of all the social media contents that I'm posting. So to that purpose, I believe it's a better approach to build some sort of an internal table that will capture all those contents created by the AI agent. So for that purpose, I defined another Python script, Airtable logger. So what it's doing is that every time you're asking the app to generate some post, it will also log that same content to your Airtable database. I'm not sure how many of you have used Airtable. So it's a kind of a I guess open source database platform that's going to help you to capture contents, and it's very user friendly, and it's kind of connects with the APIs and the apps super easily. So what we're doing here is that this particular Python script, it captures some of the prompts, the platform, whether it's LinkedIn, social media stuff, contents, and then it will kind of download it into the social media post table. So just to give you kind of a perspective, so this is the social media post table on the Airtable platform. And what it's doing is that it's capturing the prompt that user passing to the app. It's also capturing the platform and the content that app generating and the timestamp, when the app, the content has been generated. So this way, it will be a kind of useful case for a social media manager to keep track of all the contents that's being generated by the app based on the prompts they're passing. It also helps them to do some sort of a quality check. Like, for example, if someone using the app for a week and change prompts in between, this will give them kind of an idea of how the app is behaving towards certain prompts and stuff. So it's always good to have some sort of a logging mechanism for an app, and I think this Airtable adding that additional extra feature to the app in terms of capturing all the records and keeping a record of that for a few days. Now, so that's kind of the separate components of the app and everything. So now let's get to the main part, which is app.py. So this app.py is the main application Python script. It captures all these agents through an import function. It's doing some sort of health check on the server. Some of those of you who are kind of familiar with Streamlit, so Streamlit is a Python library that's creating that app. So it has a different component, it creates this app is using Streamlit to create a sidebar, and then it's also using Streamlit to kind of generate some sort of prompt sections and whatsoever. It's also having a lot of a different a component such as log to Airtable. For example, once the content gets generated on the app, then it's definitely trying to kind of download it in an Airtable session. So that's exactly what it's doing right now. So now, before I move on to the the run section of that, I'm going to now spin up the app to see if the app is running or not. I want to see if anybody has any question in terms of the coding architecture or the code walkthrough that I just did for last few minutes. So does anybody have any question in terms of the code walkthrough and stuff? Yes.
Hey, Sen, I'm just going to recap and ask maybe a more generic question, more basic to make sure I understand the flow. Do you mind going back to the diagram that you share? So is it at a high level? If I were to recap, so you have maybe 3 agents or 2 agents. One is a news agent that will fetch daily news, which will fit it as an input to the social media agent that will create platform-specific posts, and then it will post the content. And Airtable is serving as a log to track whether the posts have been posted correctly. Is that correct? That's the high-level flow, right?
Yes, that's kind of a high-level flow, is that we have a strategy and writing section that takes the prompt. It messages the prompts, is creating the brief for different platform agents. And then the platform agents are kind of spitting out that particular the message on the app. And the Airtable is kind of like a backend database that connected to that app and is capturing all those contents and keeping track of them modular basis.
Right. And then the idea of having an Airtable, it technically could be a Google Sheet, but it's mostly for logging whether it gets posted correctly or not. Is that what the purpose of an Airtable?
Yeah, the purpose is actually it's a twofold purpose. The first one is obviously you're right. That's just to ensure that it's getting posted. So we have a logging mechanism associated with that. And the second approach is it's always good to keep a trail of social media post in the back end. Like for example, I'm creating a social media post today, and tomorrow I wanted to create a similar post, but I tweaked the prompt a little bit. So how do I track it that, okay, so the prompt I'm using tomorrow, creating a better, a contents for my social media post. So Airtable is going to allow us to keep a track of those prompts as well as how they are making impact on the contents in the longer run. So it's better it's just like an internal database.
Got it. And then I guess 2 follow-up question from there. Are you able to use like a Google Sheet or like a free tool to accomplish the same purpose, or you recommend Airtable? And then second, the tracking of some of the performance of like how well a post performed. Right now, it doesn't seem like there's open API to track that. So you would like manually see which one performed better, right? Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, from optimization standpoint, again, I'm not an SEO manager, but if I'm an SEO manager, I would definitely try to see that how those prompts are being helpful to optimize the contents. But right now, I'm just kind of like using it more of like a manually check the contents of and then kind of like making a decision on which prompt should I go for next. But in future, my goal would be that if I'm going to try to share the product with an SEO or search engine optimization person, then I'll definitely ask the person to kind of like doing it on an automatic basis. So I'm just going to get an email like every morning, like, okay, this is the post and something like that. And they're just going to go over the email and just make a decision whether that post is good enough for a publication or, they just have to pull it back from the publication. So something like that.
Got it. I think I'll give opportunities for other people who have raised their hand.
Before you go, you asked me a question about why I picked
Airtable, yes,
over like a Google. I just went with Airtable because I was kind of like using this platform recently. But again, Airtable is also the one I'm using. Is also a free version, so anybody can use it. But again, it's just a matter of like using a different API of a different database, So as long as it's free, I don't think so I have any preference on that, because overall I haven't seen any issue with Airtable, but I also used Google Doc and stuff for my other, app development work. And I kind of like switch between, but recently I just kind of like started using Airtable.
Got it. I'll let other folks get their chance to ask questions.
Hey, Sam. So once again, great workshop. Thank you for doing this. Quick question. So the code that you generated, did you write that on your own or did you use Replit to produce the code?
That's a really good question. Yeah, it was kind of like a combination of vibe coding and some sort of my coding knowledge. So it's kind of like a compilation of both. And I used a little bit of Replit, a little bit of ChatGPT, and utilized that vibe coding methodology to come up with that coding structure. However, I was the decision maker to kind of like define the architecture, how the code flow would work, and also kind of making certain changes. Like for example, there's a function there in the code, and if I don't like the way it's written, I probably kind of like proposing ChatGPT to write it in such a way so it can incorporate some additional methods. So it's a combination of both, and I think that's the world we live in right now.
Right.
Developing something from the scratch. It's more of a combination of vibe coding as well as human coding expertise.
Right. So a follow-up question to this. So thanks a lot for explaining that. So when it came to even prompting in vibe coding at the first part, you went in knowing what the architecture is going to look like, right? You didn't expect Replit to do that for you. So you had already figured out that, hey, this is the architecture I want. I want one content manager who's going to manage all these. I see. And then once you had the code generated, you went ahead and made all the tweaks that you saw were valid for you.
Correct. There might be a better architecture out there, who knows? But I still believe that in today's world, I mean, as we are all like the people who had expertise in developing like enterprise level architecture should preserve that, like the role of defining the architecture and then asking AI to build a coding wrapper around their architecture. So that'll be kind of my suggestion to that. And I try to follow the similar philosophy also.
And do you have some examples of the prompts that you gave in order to like generate this code? Just you don't have to share the entire thing, but maybe like a couple of prompt examples, just so that
I can put them down in my follow-up email to all the attendees.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. Who's next?
Hey, Sam, I can go next. And thanks for sharing everything that you have so far. One quick question. You spoke a little bit about like, hey, having like a feedback loop. My question is really like, do you have any advice on, you're building this great agent, but if I wanted the agent to review performance of the post that it generates, learns from it, and then adjusts how it posts the following day, or whatever frequency that is, like, do you have any advice on like building a self-learning kind of an agent?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for asking that question. I wanted to cover it towards the end, like what's the future improvement look like, because right now this is more of like a standalone prototype app, right? But what you can do that right now, there's some certain thing called AI agent workflow coming up, okay? And I haven't utilized the workflow system so far, but you can utilize that AI agent workflow system like Zapier or NA10, integrate that with this agent and building another agent using the workflow that will monitor the feedback loop and provide recommendation to you. Okay, so something can be definitely be built, and obviously that is something as not the purpose of covering in this workshop, but I wanted to share that as a future improvement of this agent is that it can be integrated to a workflow, and maybe possibly kind of like it can be linked with some other agents for optimization purpose, like post optimization purpose, as well as also kind of like a recommendation system that this sort of like a post that should go out to the public. And I can definitely cover that in future session if there will be an appetite to kind of like build a more robust enterprise level system on based on this one. I hope that answers your question.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Just one quick follow-up. It'll be helpful, and depending on how much time we have, it'll be helpful if you can cover, hey, what's a good enough scope for one agent to cover versus like multiple agents. Like as you're describing it here, you're thinking about like another agent that then reviews the output versus the initial agent that you're building doesn't necessarily incorporate all of that. So it'll be helpful just to understand what are the boundaries of an agent. Like how do you decide when you can make all of it work through a single agent versus you need multiple agents? Just having like a simple framework for early or maybe even like novice builders will be super helpful.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna answer is I would say it's kind of like a case by case approach. It's depending upon the context of that agent and what roles that agent is serving. Like for example, like here we put a segregation between platform agents and content strategies, because we don't want the content strategies to be the same agents that's make those tailored posts. So there is like a certain like a segregations of roles and responsibilities, and I always recommend people to build your agent or make a decision on building agent based around that. If you think that one agent can cover multiple roles and responsibilities, but if they're contradicting, then it's better to kind of separate them to kind of like making sure that the agent is not kind of like making assumptions or kind of like getting bogged down with hallucinations. So it's more about like a thinking from a perspective of roles and responsibilities and making decision on how many agents you're going to build around that. Yeah, so that's kind of like my answer to that. But obviously, like I said, there's tons of business use cases out there where people just building it based on one single agent, but it's all related to whether those roles and responsibilities are tied together and can be incorporated in one single agent versus kind of segregated them around multiple agents. Okay, I can take one more question before I jump back onto the replate.
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
And I have a question about the Instagram agent specifically. Since Instagram is photo or video content, how does it take a text-based content and add it to Instagram?
I mean,
how does that work?
I mean, at this moment, I don't actually have a straight answer to it. It's kind of like maybe depending upon the prompts and how it captures. So obviously, I build that other link of the Python agent that's kind of like going out there and capturing the news articles and links. But there will definitely be a scope of optimization here because, as I mentioned, that sometimes it's possible that it's not able to format that post based on a the Instagram content standard. So, but those are some of those changes, we still have to kind of like have a human oversight on it. But to answer your question, like it's trying to give us some certain template which kind of matches Instagram, but there'll always be like, scope of improvement there. I mean, I haven't seen any other agent that's spitting out that exact template that you can just capture and just copy paste on the Instagram. There's always be some sort of like a manipulation that need to be made. Yeah.
Okay, so this actually is only creating the content. It's not actually posting it for us.
No, it's not posting it for us.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's what I was missing. I thought it was posting for us, and I was like, oh, okay, so where is it getting like the image for Instagram?
No, it's not posting for us, and I'm going to get to that when I will show you guys that app. It's mainly just capturing everything, generate a content of this. Now, as a part of the future improvement, if somebody wants to build a full workflow, end-to-end workflow, there's certain AI agent workflows out there like Zapier, N10, which can take that AI agent and then it can automatically post it on a LinkedIn and Facebook, which technically speaking, I'm a little against to that. I still want to make sure that there is a human oversight to that. Like, for example, if something is getting generated by the app, I still want to see it before I post it on LinkedIn and Instagram. But that's not part of the scope of this workshop because this is more of like a standalone AI agent that's just creating that content. But, it can be definitely integrated with some automated workflow and people can directly post it on their social media platforms from there. Okay, all right. If there is no other question, I can quickly move back to the Replit agent. Okay, so we kind of just left it over here where we have the full coding walkthrough. Now let's just go ahead and run that app and see what it's doing right now. So this is kind of like the interface, a basic prototype interface of that app. And this is where, like on the left side, you're going to just put down your idea and then you can choose platform, and based on the platform you select, the agent will render the content accordingly. So, I mean, what I can do is I can probably just pick as prompt, let's say, a day of life of an AI engineer. Let's see how it's going to format social media post for different platforms. Oops, there's some issue happened. Okay. And I did it on purpose because I wanted to, since it's a workshop, I also want to make sure that you guys are following along. So can anybody tell me that why this issue is happening and how do I solve it?
Yeah, you did that.
connect your GPT API key? Like it's not connected to the actual ChatGPT or whatever you're using?
Correct. So in the app environment, we do actually have a file called .env. It's called environment variables. And I think in the GitHub README document, I shared how that environment variables would look like. So I had to actually steal the skewer. So I have to create the environment. And obviously, I'm not going to share my API key with all, but if somebody is kind of following along with me, I would definitely encourage that person to open that .env file. And over there are like few variables there, and just pass all the API key and then get back to that and run it. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and then I'll get back here. All right. Of course, I'm not going to share my environment variables with you all because that's a secret API key. And hopefully, whoever following along with me on the Replit platform, we're able to add their API keys in their environment variables. Now, let's go ahead and spin up the app again.
Sam, I don't know if you're seeing the chat.
Let me see.
It is in red, as I don't know how readable it will be, but it just says, I exceeded my current quota. Please check your plan and billing details, which is weird because I have the paid subscription for GPT.
Wish I could help.
Oh, for that one, I think you
thing
need
I
to
could
put in
suggest-
extra money, right? The OpenAI API is a different billing, so
One
you can
thing
put
I
like
could-
$5 or $10 there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Cool. Okay,
And
cool.
one thing I could definitely recommend, you can also downgrade your model from GPT-4o to GPT 3.5 Turbo. So that can help also. Okay, because right now we're using GPT-4o when it has kind of like limitation. It's obviously it's our latest model, but if you can downgrade, maybe that will work as well.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thank you.
Okay, let's try first to make sure it's not throwing any error now.
And all this code is in PyTorch, right? It's all PyTorch.
It's all in Python, yeah.
Python, okay.
Okay, so a day of the life of an AI engineer. Okay, so this is what actually it recommends. Morning routine, coding, and algorithms. So I'm going to take a pause. I want you all to kind of like just go over this post and just tell me if it makes any sense, or because obviously there's some post I've seen thrown by the agent. It doesn't make any sense because there's always a hallucination effect there. But it looks like it's kind of like giving you an idea of, okay, an AI engineer, that's what they're supposed to do. Like they're supposed to spend time on coding and algorithm development, collaboration with teams, lunch break and learning and all kind of stuff. And feel free to, just provide any prompt that you want me to try it out on the app. Just put down your prompts on the chat and I can just copy paste them here to see how it's, rendering. And I can see that it's also shared some sources. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I've seen some issues with the, like the news API. But this seems like, it was able to give us a good demo, like what is artificial intelligence, which is kind of tied to an AI engineer role. Like, as an AI engineer, you need to understand what is artificial intelligence. Right? So I feel like it's relevant. And then also provides a link to Python for beginners. As an AI engineer, you have to learn Python. So this is also a useful post for an AI engineer, at least for newbie who wants to learn something about AI and the Python and stuff. So I think this post is kind of like reasonable, but again, I would love to hear some feedback from other team. Yes, Shavi. Yeah.
Yeah, San, thanks for the demo. I have a quick question. So first, a few questions. The first is, what's your idea? So when you do the Airtable, you said you wanted to track what prompts works. You're tracking what you are inputting here as what's your idea. Is that right?
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
I'm showing the
but then
Airtable right now.
you are not necessarily iterating on the system prompt per se that you put in for each social platform. Not here.
Not here. Okay, but in future, like let's say, and again, that is something I need to think about how we can integrate in hack with the workflow. But in future, like when you have let's consider from an enterprise architecture standpoint, you have an agent that's creating a post based on certain prompts, and it's generating all the contents, and you're just keeping track of it. Now, let's say I'm a social media manager, and I would like to see how that particular content optimized and how it performed like a month back, like from social media engagement or performance optimization standpoint. So having this Airtable would be helpful, that you can use it as a more of like an analytics platform here. And obviously we need to probably provide more dimensions here. Like we need to provide probably like, the engagement, reach and exposure and all kind of stuff. But the idea is to have some sort of a table and just build upon that to capture how that content worked in the social media platform, and also capturing reach, engagement, exposure. So the data scientists of that social media company can take the data and see how one particular content exposed to audience versus others.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And then another question is it better to structure all the different platforms as separate agents so that you can like fine tune them more? I'm not saying right now is this current iteration, but I'm just saying future, like should LinkedIn be its own agent, Twitter be its own agent, and such that, so then to, was it Maha's question earlier, like if it's a more visual kind of platform, like Instagram, for example, it can call like a stable diffusion image generation model that could create like an infographic. And then if it's like a video, like a YouTube, then it can create like a more video-based post.
Yes, that's the main purpose why we kind of have a separate agent right now. Like we have this, let's say we have this Python script. It's a very basic Python script. And the only prompt you're passing over here is the content. Like, okay, just go ahead and just create an Instagram caption. It'll be concise and engaging. Now, if you want to incorporate more stuff here, like the image or anything that's more relevant to Instagram platform, we can build upon that. Okay, but the idea is to keep all the platform agents separate, so you can kind of make more adjustment to that particular agent to make that post more tailored and more user friendly for that platform. Okay, like for example, if I run a social media marketing team and I have team for Facebook, I have a team for Instagram and LinkedIn. So I'll basically ask my AI engineer to sit down with both, all the teams and just review each and every agent with them and see how we can make it better. And that's why it's won't be possible if you are not going to separate them, at the beginning. So that's the main purpose why we are kind of keeping the platform agent separate.
Got it. Yeah.
All right. Let me see the chat. Do we have any question here? Okay. All right. Back to the preview. So let me see how this particular prompt works on Twitter and how it's generating Twitter. Again, pardon, I should use X. I'm still using the word Twitter, but that's what is sunset already.
San, while you're waiting, there's one question about if let's say we want a platform to generate image, like do you just code it in the existing Python file, like ask maybe Replets to like connect to an image generation file, or do you need to create a separate agent? Like how would you go about building that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And for that, I think we have to rely on this link discovery PY. Okay, I mean, there are two ways to do that. I mean, one is that we can have like an AI generated image agent that's going to work with Instagram and create that. And the other thing could be is that you use this link discovery PI and asking that Python agent to go out there and search for relevant image based on the prompt and then pass it back to the content strategist. So so there are like two ways we can handle that. Either we can create an AI image generator specific for the Instagram and just kind of like integrate that with Instagram, or probably just keep it within the same Instagram agent, or we can just utilize this link discovery to ask that agent to go out and try to pick relevant image and just pass it on to that social media post. Yes, there's another question somebody raised hand.
So Sam, this is through any kind of like online sources which are available and links available. But if you wanted to use some, some OneDrive link or something that's just within the company, kind of building like a RAG architecture, have you tried doing that instead of relying on outsourcing and using these external links? If you want to do something just from internal documentation that's available, have you done that for agent creation?
That's a really good question. So what I can tell you from my professional back, because this is just a personal project, so I'm allowed to do anything and shop for different APIs and stuff. But when you're going to do it in an enterprise platform, obviously there's compliance and regulation that you need to take into account. So in that case, I would definitely suggest that, try to ensure that you are building something that's only going to call for APIs within a secure platform. Like, for example, I work for a marketing company, but I don't think so my marketing company does have similar sort of like a content generator right now, because there's a lot of restrictions there, right? Because you can't just go out and and I don't think so at this moment, this is more of like we're scratching the surface of this kind of AI agent, right? But back to your question, I worked on some sort of a RAG agent, in my company, and in most of the cases we just utilize the, internal proprietary data or whatever we can just call through our internal APIs, not going outside of our company firewall and trying to call something for outside, because that will be a security violation on our side. Especially the kind of job I do, we deal with PII data, and that's obviously kind of a no-brainer, you're not allowed to access any other APIs. But back to question, the RAG architecture in most of the companies, especially in the enterprise world, are still kind of relied upon internal and proprietary environment, because not many companies would allow you to go out there and try to connect your internal RAG architecture or app to any external APIs without any formal due diligence or compliance check. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so by the external apps you mean like Replit? It's
yes.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously there are probably the startups out there, most majority of the startups probably relying on Replit, but when it comes to maybe
bigger companies might
Fortune
be
500 company or an established company, I'm not sure how many companies are using Replit, but it's a great platform that if you have an idea, if you want to build some sort of a POC, this is where you go to. But if something that you are trying to utilize within your company environment, obviously you need to ensure that your security and compliance and your IT team are okay with using Replit through your company environment. So I haven't actually started doing that, at least in my company. But in future, I think this is the way to go. But we'll see how things pan out.
Yeah, I think this is the ongoing trend. If you look at what the industry trends are going towards, a lot of agentic work being done within organizations. My organization hasn't started it, but it's good to know that you can do such things. Of course, and before anything, you can just pitch this as a prototype to your senior leadership and just say, "Hey, we should do this."
Yeah. I mean, I'm more on the business consumer data analytics side, but obviously you have to work with your IT or CIO to see if that is something your software engineering team are doing or not. With that, then I'm not sure you're a software engineer or data analytics person, but you need to work with your software engineering team. With that, then that team is mainly depending upon this kind of tool because it's just building something from the scratch, right? So so there are a lot of basic instances there, but we will definitely go through that in future, forthcoming months, and as this Replit tool gain more popularity, even within the enterprise world.
Right. Cool. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm not sure. Let me do a quick time check. So we're kind of just 2 minutes, but what I want to show you the next thing is that, so this is just like an AI, the internal app. Now, Replit also gives you a feature that's going to allow you to kind of upload this app to a more public platform so anybody can access it. So that means in a technical world, they call it like a production deployment. So you can, share the app to a public website and a public internal site. So Replit will also, help you to do that. Now I'm going to show you how to do that, so that way you know how to kind of deploy this app in a server and then make it publicly accessible. Okay, so in order to do that, you need to click on this deploy button. And once you do that, Replit will ask you, there are multiple options there. I usually go with the auto scale. And again, I'm not a DevOps engineer. I usually pick the auto scale because I want Replit to decide where they want to deploy my app. And also I feel like this is more of like a less, I'm going to spend less dollar money if I go with the auto scale than, going for a dedicated VM and stuff. But like I said, I'm not a DevOps engineer, so this is just based on my understanding. So the next thing is, once we click that, it's going to ask you all the configuration and everything you want. And this is just for POC purpose, so I'm just going to go with whatever it's suggesting. Now, the next step is to kind of start deploying it. And once you click on deploy, it takes some time, like a few minutes to deploy that. And also it's going to show you if any issue occurring during the deployment phase. Because sometimes I've seen that the agentic app sometimes is failed due to some configuration issues, but Replit has a way to correct that on the fly. And let's see if this app fails deployment. So then I'll be able to show you that feature as well. So it's still deploying. It takes 5. I'll be happy to take 1 or 2 questions while we're waiting for this deployment. Do we have any questions from the room? Do you all kind of understand the Replit architecture and then how you can, deploy an app and run something? I mean, how comfortable you are right now in terms of, building your own app on Replit?
This is pretty cool, Sam. I haven't done it. As I'm at product side, I'm going to experiment with it now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely recommend folks to utilize this one because there are a lot of, the utilization of Replit. And I will definitely send out a survey after this one to kind of just get the feeling of how people are interested to build an app on Replit, and if they're interested to kind of do any follow-up sessions on any other AI agentic stuff. I'm pretty sure there are other workshops going on as a part of this May build that will cover some other AI agentic workflows and stuff. But I will definitely recommend people to think about that and see how they can integrate this kind of AI agents to different workflows and try to make it more robust. Okay. Okay, so it seems like there's an issue happened while deploying that code in the production. So now here's a cool thing about Replit. So Replit does have its own AI assistant. So if something happens, it's gonna like, start analyzing that error on the fly, and it's gonna start giving you a recommendation. So this is the AI assistant. It's saying the deployment failed, and that's what actually I wanted to show you all. And what you can do, you can just click on that, and it's gonna help you debug and say what's going on with that app. So what the app is suggesting, there are some problem there with the app.py. So they're asking for some session. They're also asking for the set deployment run command to this. So all you need to do, just go ahead and click apply all, and then click OK, and then Replit will figure out how to make this correction during deployment. So it seems like it's corrected all this. So now all we need to do is that click on redeploy. So this is the kind of like the main domain of the app. And once it's deployed, we should be able to see that app, the web browser. Any more questions from anyone? Okay, it's almost done.
Thank you, San, for this session.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for this deployment.
Sure.
Do you have a rough sense of what is the maximum capacity, or like what is it the Replit can handle? Like if it's 100 people using it, concurrent user at the same time, or how does it, or is it automatically scale up and down?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I mean, I hope I have like a straight answer to it. But at this moment, that's what I wanted to try out by sharing an app on the fly on the website. But my understanding is that, I think it allows at least multiple users to kind of like use the same app and kind of like, launch it from there. But I just don't know the exact capacity that it can allow, like, every time. I mean, obviously, we can definitely check with the Replit team that what's the main capacity of that, but I haven't actually used it for any enterprise solution, so don't have a straight answer to that. But I usually go with the auto scale and let Replit figure out. I do have a paid subscription, $30 on a monthly basis, but I've seen that like if I launched one app and use it for at least a few weeks or so, I kind of like use up all my credit. So I don't know, that kind of like gives you some sort of a ballpark idea, but obviously it costs a few bucks to kind of like launch it on the app and you use Replit as a deployment platform.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious because we've been thinking about using that for potentially building the custom prototype for our community, and it would be interested to see because even with the Google form for beta, we have 3,000 some entries. Obviously, not all at the same time, but we're looking at potentially hundreds of users logging in, using it throughout the day? Yeah, I'm curious if Raplets are able to
I will
scale.
definitely try to get that answer for you. But right now, I mean, I probably have to check with any startup company that using Replit at this moment. I got a good recommendation of a Replit, but it's just I don't know anyone who's been using the Replit and giving kind of like concurrent access to 1,000 users on their app. But I can get that answer for you when I get a chance to check with some enterprise startup company using Replit for this one.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Thank you.
No worries. I mean, I wish I would be able to fix this deployment, but it's still running. But okay, there you go. I think it's done finally. So I think I can I'm just going to paste that link, and I'm going to keep this app kind of like on for at least next few days. I usually try, like right now I kind of used up all my credits, Replit credits for this month. But just wanted to make sure this one is working. So I'm going to use the same prompt. And just back to your questions, Fabi, if you're planning on to like building an app that's going to be accessible by the whole Microsoft AI community, are you planning to just build an app from the scratch, like what I did for this agent, or is it something like you're just going to utilizing the prompt technique on Replit and just build an app from there?
Yeah, we're still exploring. Actually, San, I'll connect with you offline and share more information.
Sure. That'll be good. Okay, so it seems like the app is currently online. I'm going to share, just share this app link on the chat so people can go ahead and access it. And I'll definitely encourage people to start, playing with the app and try utilizing different prompts to see how the app is kind of like rendering contents based on the prompt. So that way you can kind of like test the performance of this agent. But as I said, that there is a lot of things that we can optimize within the code by changing prompts, changing models and stuff. And I'll probably share this app, make it as public, so that way anybody wants to use that Replit repository, a bit of mine, and they can feel free to utilize that, and they can also like start making any enhancement in the code, or maybe start adding more agents to that. Okay, so I'll definitely follow up with the survey and more materials around this workshop. So please be on the lookout for that email. And thank you everyone for joining. And thanks for giving me opportunities to talk about a POC project that I recently worked on. And let's build more stuff around this. And I'll be happy to see a better social media content generator created by one of you in future.